Have you ever met someone and instantly thought, oh, I like this person, they seem cool, nice, whatever, or vice versa, you just met someone and you get this creepy feeling or just like a really strong feeling that you don't like them and you cannot put your finger on it. That is your brain making a decision before you can even consciously come to that conclusion. Hi, I'm Vitalina and I make videos about human psychology and human behavior and any other topic I'm interested in. And so recently I took Yale course and we talked about why we like some people, why we don't like some people, what influences this. So in this video I want to explain why we like some people and why we dislike some people, because if I were to ask you this question, I really doubt that you would have reasons. If I said, why do you like the people you like and why you don't like people you don't like? So within a fraction of a second of meeting someone, your brain starts asking you questions. Like, for example, can I trust this person? Is this person dangerous? Do I want to keep talking to this person? And etc. And the fun fact is it takes up to 7 seconds to have first impression of a person. Only 7 seconds. It starts from tenths of a second to 7 seconds. That's how fast the first impression is created. And in psychology there's a thing called thin slices. It's basically like a smart phrase to call first impressions by. For example, a few first seconds on a date with someone or in a job interview. And what is going on in your brain is literally in milliseconds, your brain, specifically amygdala, that is responsible for emotions and feelings and so on, tries to elaborate whether that person is likable, whether they're dangerous, whether they're safe, and so on. Basically, that's part of our brain that is responsible for first impression. Then, the more logical part of our brain, which is called prefrontal cortex, comes in and makes logical assumptions. But that comes like way later. Basically, the main aspects by which we're making first impression, I think you know that, appearance. You look at someone and tenths of a second is enough for you to make a judgment about that person. It's the way they talk. So are they quiet? Are they very loud and very fast? Are they obnoxious? You know, because that could mean different things. Their body language. Do they sit like this and just cross their arms around their body and just like try to protect them? Even though it's like comfortable to like put your arms like this, we read this as they like protecting from something. So are they like have good posture or not? Also, it depends environment where you meet them. If you meet them, for example, in the library, you have different impression of them if, for example, you meet them in a party somewhere. Cultural norms as well play an impactful, very important role, because if, for example, in countries where having eye contact with people suffices as confidence and they're like, you know, they're a confident person, but there are some cultures where looking in someone's eyes is disrespectful. So if you will be looking in someone's eyes without a stop, and in the countries where it deems like disrespectful, that would also have a different first impression of you. And as well, our first impression can be influenced by digital presence. So for example, if you were to meet a celebrity that you follow, that you know a lot about, and you would meet them, you already have like digital presence already made a first impression on you. So you could see them and you're like, oh wow, and yeah, your first impression was already formed. The interesting thing is, once our brain has formed this first impression, it doesn't like to change it. We start to naturally pay more attention to the information that backs up this first impression of person we have. Whether it's good or bad, we're searching for like good or bad backups to our first impression. But we'll get back to it. So why we actually like someone? How does it work? Why we like people that we like? There are basically 3 main ingredients. That's not a recipe, but like 3 main factors. Proximity. So if you see someone every day, you are more likely to like them because of mere exposure effect. So if, for example, you see a coworker every day, or like maybe at university you see someone, or I don't know, anywhere, at school, at church, anywhere. If you see this person more and more and more and more and more, you kind of become familiar with them and your brain sees this proximity as familiarity. That's a very interesting thing about our brain. That is also why there's such a thing as proximity crush. So you like someone not because they're like a great, amazing person, but just because you are exposed to them so much. So for example, you're in a band and you always exposed to this person and there's only like one guy and every other member is like girl, and there's a high chance if you spend a lot of time rehearsing that you will like this person if you're attracted to opposite sex. The second one is similarities. So if someone likes the same TV shows you do, or books, or lived in the same hometown, goes to the same church, that is kind of pretty understandable because we tend to make connections with people that we have something to go common with. For example, maybe you also have the same job or something, because you have to find some kind of common ground. And the third one is, well, attractiveness. Yeah, the previous two were like, oh, proximity, familiar, like similarity, and here's like attractiveness. Yes, actually for us it's very important how a person looks like, how they carry themselves. Like attractiveness can even be the amount of confidence a person has. So it also contributes to that. And on the topic of attractiveness, have you ever seen a person, like a very beautiful person, and without even thinking, you also assume that this person is not only attractive, they're successful, funny, they smell good, they have good clothes, they, you know, have great group of company, like good group of friends, and so on. That's called halo effect. When you see one trait in someone and you automatically assume some other traits. So for example, it doesn't always have to be with attractiveness. Attractiveness is just like the simplest thing to explain it on. But the thing is, it works the vice versa as well. So if you see someone and you see them in a setting that they're very quiet, in the workspace very quiet, they don't talk much, they just always keep to themselves, they're very, you know, you will also assume that that person doesn't have much friends, that they're, you know, some people would even call weird, and you would also give more labels, negative labels, to that person just because of the one characteristic that you saw them in. So that is halo effect. But halo effect is not the only shortcut our brain uses. If, for example, this shortcut, halo shortcut, is when you see one trait and you assume the person's personality around that. The next one, which is implicit bias, is when you just make assumptions about people's race, age, workplace, upbringing, the city they grew up in, I don't know, the car they drive, anything and everything. You are not even consciously aware of that, because implicit bias could be about anything and anyone, and we have it from our upbringing, from the movies we consume, from the media we consume, from everything. And that is implicit bias. So you could be the kindest person in the world, you could think that you should treat everyone the same, you could, you know, but for example, if a lot of people, when I say the word doctor, they associate it with men. And when I say the word nurse, they associate it with women. And for example, if you were playing some kind of video game and there's like a group of people and everyone is male, but in the last moment a female player was added to your team, you would automatically think, even if like it didn't take any effort, but you would think of female player as not a stronger player as male players. The same as like implicit bias on doctors and nurses. And that's everywhere. And you might be wondering, like, so what? Like, my brain makes these assumptions, so what? That is very interesting, because these assumptions could grow into actions, which could grow into result, and that is called self-fulfilling prophecy. So, for example, you go on a first date, and you don't really feel good about yourself. You just, I don't know, maybe you have a pimple, maybe you have, you know, you don't feel confident. That is not your day today. And because of that, you avoid eye contact, you talk quieter, you don't ask any questions, and that person doesn't call you back for second date. And you're like, oh, I knew they wouldn't like me, I knew they wouldn't like me, but because of your idea in your head that they wouldn't like you, your actions started to be different. And because of your actions, outcome also changed, and that is called self-fulfilling prophecy. And that could also be about work interview or about anything, really. So you are searching, it's not like you're searching for the thing that you believed in and, you know, you're searching for, oh, I knew I would fail, so I'm just like, I'm seeing my failures. And it's not like you thought, oh, I'll win, and you see the, I don't know, results of your winning or something like this. That is when your idea influences your actions, and your actions, as a result, influence the outcome. I don't know why I just did that, but they influence the outcome. However, that's very useful, because you can also turn around and, for example, come into a situation thinking that it will all work out, and because of that your actions will be different. You know, it's like a fake it until you make it, and your actions will be different and the outcome also will be different. So the next date you could go into like, you know, I'm an amazing person, you know, if that person doesn't like me, that's just their preference, that's okay, you know, but I like me, I'm an amazing person, and I just want to get to know that person. That could be your mindset, and because of that you will be looking to their eyes, asking questions, and I don't know if you can hear my dog sneezing, but okay, and you will be coming into the room excited, want to find out more about that person, asking questions, doing all these things, and then the outcome will also be different. So I want to finish with something interesting. In one famous study, people looked at footage of professors silently. So it's just like silent video of professors just like doing something, explaining something to the students, and they formed first impressions of them by just like silent viewing of their like hand gestures or whatever they were doing. Those people never met those professors, by the way. Those first impressions that were formed during watching a video of like silent professors' lectures were very close, or like exactly the same, to the impressions students have on those professors that actually spent a whole semester studying with them. So our brain is actually taught to pick up nonverbal cues, like someone's posture or body language, or, you know, where they look at, and all these things. So our brain is very, very smart in that. So the next time you instantly like someone or dislike someone, you can take a moment and see like, oh wait, is it really true, or is it my just brain makes a shortcut? If you enjoyed this video and you're curious about psychology, consider subscribing, and every 2 weeks I'll answer some other interesting questions and dive deep into these questions. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!